Hi there, friends, and welcome to Melvor's first ever live stream. We're all really excited to be here. We hope the feeling is mutual. And today we're going to be talking to you about the upcoming expansion for Melvor Idle and finally unveiling a lot of the content that is coming your way. Afterwards, we'll wrap it all up with some questions that we have collected from you lovely players. First, let me introduce all of y'all to the participants of today's live stream. Who better to ask about the expansion than the creator and developer of the game itself, Malcs. How you doing, Malcs?
Hello everyone, how's everyone going?
Wonderful, wonderful. And next we have Prat. Prat is the game designer and he assists with QA. His role is to plan the content and write the design documents for the developers to follow. At the same time, he helps with testing and squashing bugs prior to release. How's it going, Prat?
I'm doing well, pretty excited for today.
Wonderful, and I see you have Chio in the background.
Ready? Oh yeah, he's gonna be listening in just to make sure we say the right things today.
Perfect. Chio will be our PR for today. And finally, I am your host of the live stream, StrawHat. I have been the community manager for Melvor and Malc's very own personal troll since last year in October. Okay, tonight we have so much that we want to talk about, but only so much time to do it. So we're going to start off with a brief overview of what to expect from Expansion 1. Then we'll dive into the details for combat, non-combat, Township Part 1, and timelines. Finally, we'll end it all with our Q&A section. Before we get started, though, I believe Malcs has a few things he'd like to say to the players. Malcs, over to you.
I do, yes. Thank you so much to everyone that is tuning in. This is the first time we've ever done something like this, and I'm extremely excited to finally reveal some details about what we have in store for you for Expansion 1. Well, this expansion is months and months and months of planning, development, work. It is the result of 2 years of growth for Melvor Idle, as well as Games by Malcs. I hope what we can present to you today can show you that we have grown so much over the last 2 years. We've grown extremely rapidly as well. And yeah, I'm just so excited to actually share what we have in store. We won't have anything to actually show you today, but we will be going through a lot of the questions that everyone's been asking, going into detail about most of the expansion, as well as a couple of unannounced projects that we have on the back burner.
Wonderful. I hope everyone is as excited as I am. And as you were just saying, we've come a long way since you were just coding Melvor in your bedroom 2 years ago.
Yeah.
With that in mind, what is a brief overview of what's coming in Expansion 1?
Yeah, so Expansion 1 is going to have all the skills increased to level 120. So that's every single skill in the game will be increasing the level cap to 120, and every single skill in the game will also get content to fill that gap. We're also going to be releasing Township Part 1 alongside an unannounced project that I'll get into a bit later.
Wonderful. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about, friends. I know you all have been waiting a long time, so let's get started. We are going to start with the level 120 combat. So I'm sure there's a lot to talk about with the level 120 content in combat, so let's start with dungeons. Can we expect a few more dungeons to tackle? And if yes, will they follow a similar layout or style for Into the Mist or Impending Darkness?
Yeah, so I had a couple of discussions about how we wanted to tackle the dungeons going into 120. I can tell you that we are going to have 7 new dungeons coming in the level 120 update. All of these will be coming after Impending Darkness. In terms of what kind of style we've gone for with these dungeons, we've definitely been monitoring the community and just seeing the discussions around Into the Mist and Impending Darkness, and just seeing where the community is at in terms of like what they actually do enjoy. So what we have decided is that we are going to go back to our roots, and we are going back to the old style of dungeons, which is prepare as best as you can, and then you can idle it. All these dungeons can be idled. You complete the dungeons, you get the rewards at the end. The only dungeon that cannot be idled is the very, very last dungeon, and that's just the final boss dungeon. But we are going back to our roots in terms of what you can expect with these dungeons.
And Prat, do you have any sneak peeks for that final boss that you can share with us?
Well, it's been a long time coming for that final boss. I could say that we have had a lot of ideas of what we wanted to do, but we had we had a singular boss that we designed pre-everything. You know, like when Malcs had the alpha come out, we already had an idea of, we were joking around of what the final boss could be. And now we finally reached a point where we could actually, you know, design him and get things right. And I'm pretty happy to say that the final boss is going to be very, very hard. But in saying that, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Wonderful,
The
wonderful.
final
True
boss is
Melvor style.
the final boss is so hard that the final boss is the only monster in that final dungeon. There's no monsters before it that you have to kill. It's just that boss. So have fun.
Have fun. That's all we're gonna say. That's all we're gonna say.
Yeah.
So, what about combat content outside of dungeons? Can you give us any insights into that?
Yeah, so outside of dungeons, we wanted to really add a lot more content throughout combat. So what we are adding here is we're going to be adding 8 new Slayer areas. All of these coming after the existing Slayer areas. What these will actually do is these will actually provide you a lot of the necessary items required to tackle the next dungeon. So the way it will kind of work is that as you go into the level 120 update, you're going to go into these Slayer areas, you're going to beat the Slayer areas, get all the items that you need, and then hit up the dungeon. Once you finish that dungeon, you're going to go back to a Slayer area, get as much as you can, and then get into the next dungeon. So all of these Slayer areas, we have around 54 new monsters coming in total, all from level 100 to level 120. And we also have quite a lot of unique items and gear for you to obtain throughout these dungeons and Slayer areas.
Okay. Then that's really exciting, and I know we have a lot of new content coming to tackle. What are you adding to help prepare the players for the upcoming task to complete this content, Prat?
So we wanted to focus a bit more heavily into things like the Slayer areas, just because we've found that putting everything in a dungeon is a bit too much sometimes, and it's a lot of RNG that players would have to go through. So what we wanted to do with the new Slayer areas is to add more power to the Slayer areas themselves. But at the same time, all the best stuff will come from dungeons. But Slayer areas won't feel like a massive jump in between. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of new items, a lot of new things. So I hope it will be enough.
I'm sure
hard.
it will be. I know you guys have been working really hard. And speaking of new items, so how does the scaling of new combat gear work? We have a very high damage output and damage reduction now. What is being done moving forward?
Yeah, so when we were designing and developing these dungeons, we had to really consider exactly where we're at in terms of power and scale in the game. As those that have reached the very late game, you will notice that we are very much nearing the damage reduction cap. And this does indeed pose some issues moving forward with content. We could either go vertical scaling or horizontal scaling. So what we have decided is we are going to continue on that linear path upwards, where monsters and yourself will be outputting more damage, as well as obtaining higher hit points. The reason we've done this is because the amount of XP that you need to get to level 120 is a lot. It is an absurd amount of experience, and because your damage is directly tied to experience, we need to make sure that the player is outputting sufficient damage to get to level 120 in a reasonable time. To combat the damage reduction issue that we have, there are a few ways we could go about doing this, but what we have actually decided is that we are going to continue to push the boundaries of damage reduction. So what you'll find moving forward in these combat areas is that monsters will actually be able to passively reduce your damage reduction, meaning that you're going to have to find combat equipment with higher damage reduction that's currently available to be able to get through to these dungeons. So for example, if you have 80% damage reduction, you might go into a dungeon, all the monsters in there reduce your damage by 20%, and you're scrambling, looking for that extra 20% somewhere that we've added inside the game. We think that doing this kind of mechanic is probably the easiest to follow, It's quite simplistic. There's no like dynamically changing damage reduction. It's all okay. You're going into this dungeon. This is how much damage reduction you lose, and you can prepare for that. And I think adding this allows us to push the boundaries of difficulty with these dungeons, and ensure that players are definitely carefully planning their combat journey.
Okay. As you can tell, there's been a lot of thought that's gone into the expansion and all of the mechanics, and we always listen to what all the players are saying, so we really appreciate all your suggestions. With that in mind, Prat, are there any new tools available to players that can help with combat?
I'd say that because we're focusing a lot more on Slayer areas, for example, there'll be a lot of items that'll be a lot easier to obtain. Well, I say easier, but compared to idling dungeons, it'd be a lot easier. But with the 120 combat, there's also there's going to be prayer that will also go to 120 as well. So there'll be a lot on the combat side itself that will add to it. And then not even speaking about the non-combat skills that will benefit as well. So there'll be a lot of different buffs and everything that will help you along your way because you'll need it.
We also have a brand new spellbook coming as well.
Ooh.
We've seen that players do really enjoy the concept of ancient magics, and the power and uniqueness that they actually provide to the player. So what we've actually added to help you throughout your next combat journey is we've added another spellbook from level 100 to 120 that will contain roughly 10 new very unique spells. And these spells will directly assist you with getting through the dungeons that you have to face, because they are very difficult. Difficulty is a word you use loosely in an idle game. Difficulty as in preparation for a dungeon, and you have to use them to your advantage to actually get through.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of pogs in the chat. I'm so glad. People, you should be excited. Then tell us about the story behind Expansion 1. I've heard it's very story-driven.
Yes, it is. So for those that don't know, Melvor does actually have a story. Funnily enough, I really do enjoy the world-building aspect of this game. Even though it is idle and about 4 people have probably read the story, I do want to incorporate a storyline and the world-building aspect more and more into the game, and this expansion is going to directly highlight that. So what you'll see is that this entire expansion was actually developed with the storyline first. So every single thing you're doing in combat from level 100 to level 120 is going to be written down, and your journey is going to be laid out directly in front of you. Every single dungeon that you go through, you're going to get a storybook detailing exactly what you've done, why you've done it, and it's going to be your journey to the final boss. The final boss itself inside this expansion has appeared in the existing storyline as well, and Impending Darkness finished, leading into the level 120 content. So we've had this content planned prior to releasing the game. We've had this whole storyline planned out, and we can finally get it out to you soon.
We love to hear it. Again, we have a great reaction in the chat. Yes, we do actually have lore in Melvor. Please actually pick up a book. Now, combat sounds insane, but what about non-combat? What do you have planned here?
Right, so yeah, the combat aspect was just a nice portion of it. Getting into non-combat is where things get a lot more interesting. So combat itself will provide a good amount of tools for you, but you're not going to be able to get through combat without the tools we provide in the non-combat skills. Every single skill, like I said before, is increasing to level 120, and I'm not talking about just a few items here and there. I'm talking about filling the gap every 1 to 2 levels throughout up to level 120. So in total, we're probably looking at around over 500 new items being added in this expansion. Stuff like, for example, wood cutting currently has 8 trees to cut. In the expansion, we're adding 9 more. And these 9 more logs will domino effect into all these other skills. Summoning, agility, astrology, everything's getting so much more content post 99. And you're going to have to use all of this to your advantage to be able to get through all of the combat content.
We love to hear it. This is so exciting. And Prat, do you have anything else to add to that?
It was pretty fun to finally go back and actually add new stuff to past skills, because I don't think we've touched any of these older skills since first alpha release. Didn't even add a new tree. So it's good to go back, add a lot more things, and it's been a learning experience as well. It's kind of getting back to the roots of the game, seeing how everything kind of links together. So
Definitely.
it's been really fun. It's been really fun. So things like smithing got 4 new tiers. So
Wow.
there's so much stuff out there. We have like another 8 runes as well. So 9
Get
rocks.
ready.
Do
you like
ready.
rocks?
It'll be, yeah.
So many rocks.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so
that
it's-
is really, really, really exciting. And okay, speaking of that, then, are there any cool new mechanics that are coming to the skills that you have to share with us, Malcs?
Yeah, so this is definitely very much still a work in progress, but what we wanted to do heading into level 120 skills is we wanted to have a few more unique synergies between skills that don't currently have them. However, we did stick to keeping it simple, and a lot of the skills will have the same mechanics. But one of the ones that I can kind of tease is the new meteorite mechanic that's coming to mining. So what happens here is that astrology will now synergize with mining, where as you're studying the stars and the constellations in astrology, obviously because you're staring up the sky for so long, you're going to see some stuff. So what you're going to be able to spot is meteorites falling from the sky. And these meteorites will actually appear within mining for you to mine, which you can then smith into very, very unique items. And these unique items are actually pretty damn good. This meteorite does not have a maximum HP. So you can continuously spot meteorites throughout astrology as much as you want, stack up the meteorite as much as you like, and then mine it to depletion in mining. And this does not regenerate. You have to go back to astrology to refine it. So that's just one thing that we're looking at adding, on top of a few other unique mechanics you'll see for some skills that very much need it.
Speaking of maybe skills that very much need it, are there any plans for skills like agility and summoning? Prat, what do you think?
So we look to agility and summoning as sort of the pillars for buffs when it comes to non-combat. So we wanted to put a lot of work into it, and to make sure that players would kind of feel the progression as they're going through leveling all this. So with agility, we've currently added 5 new tiers for the players to choose from, which will build on top of your course right now, as well as pillars at the end of 120 also. So there's going to be a lot of different buffs that players will get to choose from. And agility is so balanced in a way that, you get your resources and you get your buffs. It's so simple. And then on the other hand, we have summoning. So summoning is a funny one. Because the reason why we kind of skipped some skills was purely because when we were writing summoning and finishing off summoning, Malcs didn't even start agility. So we didn't even know what was going to be coming. So a lot of the skills we just thought we'll leave it for later. We'll find a time for it, and yeah, so now's the time for it. So for the last, I think it's 5 skills. So we have astrology, fletching, agility. What else did I miss? Summoning itself and farming. So we've added summons for all of those, except for farming, because I think farming is a little weird and a little tricky to do. So there'll be 4 new summons just for skilling.
Wow.
But then on the other side, we've added another 4 for combat. And the issue with summoning is everything must synergize.
Yep.
So the grand total for synergies, currently we have 90. This number has now risen up to 196. So I hope there's going to be a lot of new build ideas, and yeah, it's going to be good.
I cannot wait to see what the new upcoming meta is that everyone just discovers from
Absolutely.
the
There's going to be
190.
something that's going to be so OP.
Yeah.
We can't wait. You guys let us know. You
Day
guys let
one.
us know. Now, we have the question that's been on everyone's mind. I've seen it been asked 1,000 times already in the chat today. What are the plans for mastery? Are we also going to see this increase to level 120?
Yeah, and this is definitely a question that everyone's been asking ever since we even announced that skills were going to level 120. So what we have actually decided for mastery is that they will not increase to level 120. Mastery maximum level is staying at level 99. The reason we've decided this is because there's no reason to increase it to level 120 in its current state. The only reason you will do that is to increase playtime, and people just do not appreciate that. So what this update will do is that you can now train your skills to level 120 with extra content while mastering your skills to level 99. However, what is happening is that all the new items that we've announced will most likely get mastery. So it is a bit of a balance, but no, mastery is not going up to level 120.
All right, you heard it here, chat. You heard it here. And if I hear anyone ask it again in the Discord, you're being kicked. Okay. Now, can players still wear their skill capes that they achieved at level 99, or are they going to be increased to level 120 as well?
Yeah, so skill capes are another interesting one. What we used to do in the past is skill capes were removed, or the maximum cape was removed for maximum players when a new skill was added. And then considering what we were going to do for level 120 was another interesting discussion. So what we have decided is that level 99 capes are staying as level 99 capes. So you will be able to wear your skill cape post 99 to assist you with your level grind after that. The max skill cape is staying as it is, so you can still get level 99 in every skill, and you can use your max cape to train post level 99. We don't have confirmation on what we're doing at the level 120 mark just yet, and we also don't have confirmation on what we're doing in regards to the 100% completion cape just yet. So I'll have more details on those two aspects closer to release, but your skill capes are safe, they're not being removed, and you can use them to train to level 120.
There you go. See, we're going to be kind. We're letting you keep the capes, and they'll help with the grind. So that, I think, sounds perfect. Then we have one more thing to discuss for non-combat skills, and it's something that we saw a lot of people talking about in the questions thread. It's been the discussion around astrology in its current state. Are there any plans for that to change or additions to the skill besides the little bit of the meteorite mechanic that we discussed earlier?
Yeah, so astrology in its current state is very interesting. It is one of my favorite skills thematically. I do enjoy the concept of looking up to the sky, staring at the constellations and studying them for bonuses and nothing but bonuses. However, where we did fall over was the RNG aspect of it. During playtesting, we did find it was fun. However, as Astrology was released and we played it for about a month or two, we did see where players were coming from and the fact that it's just annoying going into Astrology and just re-rolling everything to try and get that near impossible 5% everything. So yes, Astrology mechanics are going to get reworked in Expansion 1. What we are going to be doing is most likely removing the RNG aspect of Astrology and giving you nothing but bonuses in a way where you can actually complete Astrology. So you can go in there, spend your Stardust, get to the maximum, and you have that maximum forever because you spent the Stardust to get there. So we are going to move away from that RNG aspect and allow you to complete Astrology.
I'm not sure if you're looking at the chat. People are so happy about that. They were all haters. But you're welcome.
Oh, we're pretty happy as well. Yeah.
Okay. We're all happy. Now we're going to move on to Town on a Ship. Township Part 1. We've had a lot of theories around here. So what is Township and how will it work in Melvor?
Okay, so Township Part 1. We've always referred to this as Melvor's version of construction, And since we have referred to it as that, it has very much grown since then. Township itself is an integrated town management simulator within your game. It is a non-combat skill, so you do have to train it to level 99. The main aspect of Township is to develop and build a town. We have around 50 or 60 different buildings that you can build to increase your population, increase your education, increase your happiness, all sorts of different mechanics to increase the output and generation of your town, including a unique biome generated map that everyone's going to be able to use. So everyone's town is going to be unique to them. What Township will do is integrate into the game itself and backwards. So stuff that you do within the general game, you can use that to help your town. And if your town is at a level of management, you can get your town to benefit yourself back into the game. We're still finalizing details on what exactly the town is going to provide you, but we hope that what we do have in store is going to be exciting for you.
Sounds very exciting. We have a lot of people popping off in the chat, as would be expected. Prat, do you have anything extra to add to that?
I just want to say that this is just part 1 for now. We wanted to get, the building solid. We wanted to bring it up to a point where we were happy with the building mechanics, and we were happy with, how it plays along with everything else. So we'll also be trying to experiment with things like an optional task system as well, where we'll be able to help your townsfolk, with any problems they'll have as well. But in saying that, it's the main focus of part 1 was just to make sure everything is correct and everything, feels good to play, and to nail the management aspect of it. And, when we were ready, we'll get part 2 up and running. And Malcs, would you like to say something about part 2?
I don't know, you skipped one thing. We want to talk about how's it. Prat, come on, I'm the host here. You're not trying to take my job. Okay, so back on track now. What is the difference between Township compared to other skills in the game?
Yeah, so I will get into part 2 and the part 1 aspect and what exactly that means, so be prepared for that. Township is very much quite different to any other skill we've made. It is by far the biggest skill we have added to the game. I did mention previously that Township was a non-combat skill. However, Township is actually going to have no mastery. You don't have to worry about mastery in Township. There's no reason to add it. There's no place for mastery. It's just a self-contained building management simulator. Township is also designed to be leveled alongside all your other skills. So as you progress through the game, you'll usually go back and check on what's going on in your town and assist people there. As Prat mentioned earlier, we have a task system being tested and developed for Township. This is kind of like our version of a quest system where your townsfolk will give you a task to complete outside of Township. Go get the resources, go help with this to get some bonuses for your town or some XP or something. So Township is something to just for you to look after, when you log into the game, collect your progress, go to your town, see if anyone needs anything, spend a few minutes or here and there trying to help your town. So it's very, very different in how it plays. Township's also passive. It's a passive skill. You don't have to stop training anything else to train passive. Township, sorry. So that's another good aspect. So it's not going to affect anything else. You can do it whenever you like.
Okay, now with that in mind, Prat, we're at the question. Do you want to ask it?
Malcs. We mentioned it's only part 1.
Yes.
Could you please tell us why?
Okay, so part 1 and part 2. When we developed Township, we accidentally made it too big. So we had to cut it in half. So what happens here is part 1 is all about managing your town. Part 1 is all about building your town, looking after your people. It is set inside the Melvor world. What part 2 is going to implement is that you are not the only town in the Melvor world. There's other towns out there, and you're going to have to manage that aspect as well, whether it be through an alliance or being their enemy, through combat, disagreements, politics, that kind of stuff. So combat will be added to Township, and you're going to have to manage that aspect in part 2. What we have, just to give you kind of an idea of what to expect, one of the first things you're going to be asked in Township is to select your god. One of the 4 gods in Melvor Idle that your town will be worshipping, that will provide a unique bonus to you. What's going to happen in part 2 is that there are towns out there that worship a different god, and they don't like your god. So you're going to be butting heads for quite some time to settle this kind of disagreement. So yeah, further into the future, part 2 is the combat aspect of Township.
This is all so exciting. I can tell exactly how excited the chat is. They're going off in Discord and here on Twitch. So there's a lot to look forward to. You know, per usual, we're overachievers. We did a little too much, so we are going to break it up. But we're not done. Is there anything else you'd like to reveal about what may be coming to Melvor Idle?
Yeah, so I have an unannounced project that I'd like to finally announce to everyone that we've been working on for the past 4 months at this stage. One of the biggest things, or one of the coolest things about the Melvor community is the scripting and extension side of it. So what I can announce is that we are adding official cross-platform mod support to Melvor Idle. What this means is that we are developing an inbuilt mod manager and mod browser on every single platform of the game. People can create and develop mods for Melvor and upload it to this manager, and you'll be able to access those mods throughout every single platform. We've actually brought on the developer of the Melvor mod manager, for anyone that knows that, and he is actually leading the development of this official mod support. What will also come with this is that there'll be an integrated game API that people that create mods can access, where you can add an assortment of stuff to the game. So what we're really looking at is being able to make Melvor Idle completely customizable with user-generated content. And it's going to be awesome to finally see what people can come up with.
Yes, it is very exciting because I know you know better than anyone else. Our community is very creative. So I'm interested to see what kind of mods we'll see come out of this. Now it's time to transition into some of the nitty-gritty details that we have to share with players. One that I know we've seen a lot as well. When will expansion 1 be released?
Yes, the release date. When can you get your hands on it? All right, so as you've heard, this expansion is massive. It is the biggest expansion that we've ever, the biggest update we've ever attempted to develop. So the expansion 1 will be releasing in Q3 of 2022. As we get closer to that date, we will give you an exact date. However, it's still currently in very active development. Things are still changing quite rapidly, and custom artwork is still being done for it. And once all that's complete, it will go into testing. The whole thing's getting localized, and all of that does take time. So Q3 2022 is when the official release date will be.
Perfect. Okay. Then, will it be available on all platforms at the same time?
Yes. So the expansion 1 will release on every single platform Melvor was available on at the exact same time.
Okay. Perfect. As we usually do it, so no surprise there. Then, the question that also has been asked a lot, will this expansion cost money?
Yes, so this is a question I've seen quite recently, quite a lot as well, since we've talked about the expansion. So there's a few things we had to consider with this. Was the main one is where exactly we want Melvor Idle to go into the future, and whether or not and how long we've actually wanted to support it for. So I can announce that some of this expansion will be paid, and I'll get into that in a second. The reason for the paid aspect of the expansion is that Melvor Idle has become something a lot bigger than I expected 2 years ago. You know, if we look back to 2 years of when I was working from this, I was working a full-time job, coming home, sitting in my bedroom and just coding this cool game that I thought was pretty great that people were playing. And it was my way to learn how to code a game. And then you go on through the years and you just see how much has grown. I now have a team of people. Prat is working for me full-time. I'm working full-time on this. I've got Coolrox working as a developer. I've got artists as well. You know, Melvor has become basically my life. And I don't want Melvor to go anywhere. And to be able to sustain Melvor far, far, far into the future, I do need to release some paid expansions. So moving forward, all of these expansions, there will be a paid aspect to it. Now, in terms of cost, this expansion is going to cost $4.99 US, and it's going to work the same as it does currently, where you can purchase the expansion on one platform and it will unlock on every single other platform. So you only have to buy it in one place and you have it all. What part's going to cost money? The level 120 content is the paid aspect. So you need to pay $4.99 US to access leveled 120 content. Township, the mod manager, quality of life, bug fixes, anything that we add that isn't after level 99 is free. Every single person is getting that free. And my goal with these expansions is to ensure that people that do not wish to spend money on an expansion is getting a big content drop for free, because you've already bought the game, and so that's more than enough. So I want to make sure that you are still getting the updates you deserve. So just to recap, $4.99 USD for the expansion. Level 120 content is the only paid aspect, and everything else we have discussed is free.
Incredible. I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat. Some people said, please let me give you money. You can go ahead. There's Patreons there. No, we are really happy to say that.
We wanted to make sure it was very fair, because expansions will never cost near how much the game's going to cost, and we want to make sure it's as fair to the players as possible. It's something that I've valued since I started making this game, is that I want to make sure that the monetization model of Melvor is as fair to the players as possible. So I hope that I can continue to prove that to you guys, and show you that the content you will receive in these expansions is definitely worth it.
Exactly. That's something players will always come first for Melvor, and I hope that you guys can all see that. So that is actually the end of sort of the discussion around expansion 1, and now we're going to dive into some player questions that we have. All right. We've received a ton of questions for this stream, but we only have so much time that we're allowed to air today, so we're going to dive right in with our first question. Our first question is something that we already discussed. Will we ever see individual masteries reach level 120? Let me just make sure that you guys don't ask me this again.
Yes, we are answering this question again, just so you do know the answer. Good thing to emphasize here is the ever aspect, and that there's no reason for masteries to ever go to level 120. So you're safe. Level 99 it is. Don't worry about that level cap increasing. We're staying at level 120.
Gorgeous. And that question came from Arleta.
Level 99, sorry.
Yeah, okay, watch out. Okay, our next question. So our next question comes from Sothoga. Sorry ahead of time if I mispronounce all of these, because I might. So the question is, will new content, new skills, existing skills from 100 to 120, new dungeons, etc., be gated behind walls or difficulty checks that make the content inaccessible to brand new players or recently started players?
Yeah, so in terms of gating the content for like new or recent players, yes, of course, the level 120 content will be gated, because you do need level 100 at least to start that content. This is also with the dungeons as well, and the combat content. All of the content does come after Impending Darkness. However, what we have done and decided on in terms of this, because what currently happens is Impending Darkness does require level 99 in every skill to even access. For the expansion, we're going to remove that. So you'll be able to access Impending Darkness whenever you're ready. That way you can actually go to level 120 content when you're actually prepared, rather than gating it behind a level requirement. For Township, no, there's no gates for that. You do require some resources from the game itself to actually start building your town, but there isn't really any level locks or gates for that one.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Malcs. Then our next question. Our next question comes from Ryzak, and the question is, will there be a hunting skill added to Melvor? It could function similar to farming, but not take so long. What do you think, Malcs?
No. There's no plan for hunting. I'll let Prat get into the details of why this is, but hunting isn't really something I see that Melvor has a place for. There's nowhere really that it can fit, especially looking at the current metas of Melvor. Adding hunting wouldn't really make much difference, and to me, it doesn't necessarily make sense to add. I know people won't like that because it is a much beloved skill from RuneScape, but I personally don't see a place for it just yet in Melvor.
Yeah, what do you think, Prat?
We looked into it. It's just we never really had any decent ideas when we were taking a look and how it plays. So as much as we, looked into it and wanted to have sort of a hunting skill, sadly, it needs a certain niche right now, and there hasn't been any good ideas just yet. So I won't, unlike Malcs, I won't say complete no, but I'd say that we don't have anything just yet.
I love it. We'll team up against Malcs, it's fine. Okay, then our next question. Our next question comes from Shadarshian. Again, apologies on any names being mispronounced, I apologize. Are there any plans to support mods that can add new items / new skills?
Well, good thing we did actually announce mod support. However, what I can announce on top of that is yes, I did speak roughly about an integrated API that mods can access, and this API will indeed allow you to create custom items, custom skills, custom game modes, custom monsters, just an assortment of stuff. So we want to make sure we can give the player as much control as possible with the mods. I will say that I cannot confirm that everything in this API will be available on release, because we will be working on it into the far future to unlock more stuff. However, the plan we do have is to make sure that if you can see it in Melvor, it can be changed or added or removed.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. Again, I cannot wait to see what the players do with that kind of freedom that we're going to allow them to have. It's going to get messy. We'll move on to the next question then. This question comes from Willing Champion 3059. I know it's probably unrealistic to ask, but in the future, do you have any plans to incorporate a multiplayer aspect? Grand exchange, co-op, raid dungeons, rare drops. I know we've had this question thrown at us 1,000 times, but I've also seen it in the chat 1,000 times already in this stream. So go ahead and let him hear it, Malcs.
There's never a week that goes by without someone suggesting some multiplayer aspect.
Have you ever considered PvP?
No, I haven't actually. Good idea. So, we're not adding multiplayer aspects to this game. I designed this game to be a very solo experience, and that is exactly how it's going to stay. There is zero plan to add any multiplayer aspect. This includes even an in-game chat. Like, it's staying as a unique solo experience, single player experience. So no, we will not be adding any multiplayer aspect.
All right. Rip everyone in the chat. You heard him.
Unless you can get a mod for it.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just going to keep the mod people busy. Okay, then our next question. Arletub actually had another question for us, and it was, will you ever consider putting in sounds? Sound when reaching the end of a dungeon, running out of runes, finishing a wave in the Golbin Raid, etc. It might really help the alt-tabbers out there. Also, go ahead and answer if there's going to be a soundtrack as well, because we hear that a lot.
Yeah, so one of my goals for Melvor is to have a unique soundtrack. I would absolutely love to get an original soundtrack for Melvor, but that's far into the future. That's a lot of work. But that is something I'd like in terms of that. In terms of sounds, it hasn't really been on my mind to add sounds to the game, just because of the idle aspect. You have to be really careful when you add sounds to an idle game, because a player will potentially be hearing that sound over and over and over and over again. And another aspect of this is that one of the first things I used to do in idle games is mute the sound. I don't really see a place for it. However, I can't deny that adding like a audio notification or something when you've like a major milestone in the game has happened or something that needs your attention now, especially for those that do have the game open all the time. I do think that would be a good idea, but there isn't any current plans to actually add that.
Okay, you heard it there. Maybe another mod. Maybe another mod. The world is your oyster now, chat. The world is your oyster. Okay, on to our next question. Our next question comes from Ryzak. More mini games? Question mark. The raid minigame is pretty fun, but a bit too reliant on RNG right now for gear. Are there any plans for a minigame that doesn't rely so heavily on RNG? Prat.
So when we look at minigames, the whole purpose of minigames was just to add, something different that's still in the Melvor, the Melvor world, but it should be, something that you can play just for fun, something hopefully quick. So I guess RNG kind of helps with a lot of that because you kind of want it to be, something different every time you play it. If you remove the RNG element, it kind of becomes, the best build you can go for. I need to min-max this so I can do well in it. So it's not something that we want to remove, especially for minigames. I could say that there is a few other minigames that we have in planning just for the future, but when we have time, we'll talk about it as well.
Okay, we're gonna leave you hanging on that one though, chat. We're not gonna say any more. Just keep your eyes peeled. All right, our next question comes from GoldOni91. Is there any ETA for an offline mode on mobile? Question mark.
Yeah, so something that I do definitely want to add to the game. For those that don't know what they're talking about, currently Melvor Idle does require internet connection to load. What they're asking is if there's an ETA on the offline aspect where you can access the game totally offline. There is no ETA on the offline version of the game. However, it is very much on the to-do list. So I can confirm it's going to come, but I just cannot confirm exactly when.
Okay. Very, very good. Then we're going to move on to our next question that we have. We're getting near the end of our time, chat. Tell us that you're sad. Our next question comes from Alex Demote, and it says, what do you want to accomplish before calling this game finished?
Yeah, so I think that's a very difficult question to answer, actually. Calling a game finished is one of the hardest things a game developer can do. To a game developer, a game is never finished. There's always something you can add. And making that decision to call it finished is very tough. I don't know what I'd like to accomplish before I call Melvor finished. I can say that there is no way that that's happening anytime soon. I do want to keep working on Melvor because there's so much that we can do with it. We can continue to push the idle genre, and that's something I really want to try to accomplish. Before calling it finished, it will just have to be when Melvor is in a spot where I'm happy with it. It's self-sustaining. Where I'm happy go, I've put so much work into this that I'm very much happy with the state of this and to move on from it. But I can't see that happening anytime soon at all. I absolutely love this game and I just want to keep working on it.
I don't think any of us can see it happening either, considering how big Expansion 1 is. Cannot imagine what's coming down the road. Then, with that in mind, our next question kind of builds off of that, which is coming from Slayer21809. Will you ever make more games or stick to updating Melvor only?
Yeah, so I mean, more games is always on the to-do list. I would absolutely love to work on another project. As you work on a game for so long, you always have these ideas that just never make it in or don't fit the current game. And those ideas could very much be used in another project. So I would absolutely love to work on another project in the future. But for now, my priority is absolutely Melvor. And I'm just going to stick to updating Melvor for the foreseeable future.
Okay. We love to hear it. We're seeing a lot of people excited in the chat. Then we have a couple fun questions to end to end the stream on now. So the next question is one of my favorites. It's coming from NFU2. And it is, when are we getting the official Melvor Idle Dating Sim? We've been waiting for a while now. I've seen a lot of people spamming this in the chat.
Well, thank God mod support's coming, right?
Thank God for mod support.
You know,
Okay.
I absolutely love what could be created with the official mod support, but I am absolutely scared for what can be created with official mod support. So any modders out there, have
Any
the time
modders?
of your life and show me what you got.
Any modders in the chat? Okay, definitely challenge has been issued. Then we have our final question of the night. Our final question is coming from Debbie Pebble, and it is, when will Larry the Lonely Lizard get a friend?
Well, you can answer this question with a question. So, when was the last time you actually pet him? You know, he's been sitting in your pet log for ages. Just ask, like, when was the last time you pet him? And then consider, why is he lonely? And go, right. Poor Larry has been sitting there so lonely for so long, no love, no affection. All things just been lonely since he was. No, when you unlocked him, have you pet him? Did you pet him when you unlocked him? You know.
There we go. We have
Poor Larry.
answered. Poor Larry. Like, you know, I've seen a lot of pet Larrys. I don't think the bot can even keep up with all of y'all. So it seems like he's on his way to being a little less lonely. All right, team. This marks the end of our first ever Melvor Idle live stream. I hope everyone has had a good time because it's been a lot of fun on our end. We put a lot of work into prepping for this. Really excited to have seen the reaction from the amazing community. So let us know if these streams are something that you would like to see more of in the future, because we'd be more than happy to do that. Until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll have this VOD uploaded on YouTube in the next few days and a transcript coming out around the same time. We'll have a TLDR going out very shortly after this live stream, so stick around for that. You'll be able to share that around. And have a great weekend, folks. Goodbye from me.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. It was so good to finally be able to actually explain some expansion to you. So thanks so much for that. I really appreciate you being here.
Yes. All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next time.